Hello guys, this is your girl Bridget Ekpo and you're watching Obodo Yibo TV. If you're joining me for the very first time, I thank you. You're welcome to Obodo Yibo TV, where we generally talk about issues that affect people from African background who live overseas. Last week, I put a short video out there talking, asking question about why Africans, have this fear of writing a will, especially African men. And I got different responses. Some were quite hilarious, others were quite serious, because I actually think it's a very serious issue. So what it is that you find a lot of people who work really hard. They have investments such as houses, land, shares, bonds, stocks, and they don't put anything in place for when they go, what's going to happen to those assets that they have. So we hear stories of men who die with all this investment that they have, and even the children struggle to have access to what they have, because it's either they don't have a will in place, or one funny story or the other, and then you see uncles and aunties coming out from different angles and saying, oh, he's our brother, we are entitled to his property. And I've got, like I said, I got a different response. And the one that, one of my aunties said to me that, the dad actually worked really hard, and he had land, he had buildings, he had properties. But the children today don't even know where they are. They are not benefiting from it. Why? Because of all these troubles that normally, arise from when people want to assess what their father has, or what their father has labored for. You see this uncle that will come out from nowhere and say, oh, he's my brother, I'm entitled to what he has. And because the owner of this property, the man or the woman who has worked hard for this property, did not write a will or did not put anything in place, then it becomes a problem on the sharing. So it becomes a struggle. This is my, this is the feedback that I got from a lot of people who's reached out to me to talk to me about the issue. The problem is, first of all, is cultural. I think in Africa that we generally have this idea that if a man or a woman is successful, then naturally their assets should go to their children. Usually it's the first son that will be in charge. Poverty is one of the reasons, because you need to have assets for you to be thinking about writing a will. So if a man or a woman, for instance, does not have any valuable assets such as stocks, bonds, property, money in the bank, or expensive jewelry like gold, platinum or silver, or anything of assets of worth that you can exchange for money, or that's got value, then you won't be thinking about writing a will. So that's a factor for it. We all know how our continent is with regarding poverty. There are high levels of poverty in Africa. A lot of people are struggling daily just to have even the basic, essentials that they need in terms of, practical everyday life. So the African view about life, we Africans have a very particular view about life and death. We tend to think that, oh, I don't need to do things like this until I'm older. So there's no need. Even though I'm successful, I shouldn't be thinking about writing a will or putting my affairs in order. It's only for people who are going to die or people who are very ill. But the funny thing about life is that it doesn't always go that way. Actually, people who are ill sometimes even live longer. They might have a form of illness or disability, but they will still live longer than those who are healthy, because death is something that nobody knows when it's going to come. It's not a question of age or fitness or anything. It's good to be fit. It's good to watch, look after yourself. But sometimes even very healthy people, they have accidents. Children that are born, they die. It's not like they committed any sin or anything. So nobody actually knows when they are going to go. That's one thing that, God has not revealed to us. The only place I know in the Bible where, someone was told they are going to die is Hezekiah. Since then, I don't think anyone has been told that they are going to die. If people have terminal illnesses, for instance, cancer or any kidney or liver diseases, and the doctors say that they've got so and so number of months or years to live, sometimes it can be wrong. They might tell them they've got 6 months and they will live longer. They might tell them they've got 1 year. So we don't really know. That's why it's really, really important. Talking about death is not going to make you die. And that's, it brings me to the culture of, white people. They talk about death, they put their affairs in order, they have burial arrangement, they do all sorts of things, they have their will and all their affairs in place. But they actually live longer. You find people who are 80, 90, 100. And we know in the UK, for instance, that we have an aging population. So you find a large percentage of the population, people who are quite elderly. So it's not about you talking about death. It doesn't mean that you're going to die. So people need to be aware of that so that we can do the right thing. So we can put things in place. Because the saddest thing about people who really work hard and acquire all these assets is, when they go, what happens behind, when they die. You find a lot of successful people, especially in Nigeria. And when they die, because they haven't got a will and they haven't told anyone what they want, to happen to their assets, it's a lot of chaos. Their children, begin, to run helter-skelter. Some of them will just turn their back on the assets of their parents because they don't want to fight. It's then you will see one miserable uncle or one miserable auntie that will come out from the corner, an auntie or uncle that you've never heard of or you've never seen in your life, and they'll be saying, oh, it's my brother. It's my brother. What does he have? I want to know what he has. I'm entitled to. A friend of mine shared her own experience with me recently. Her dad just recently died, sadly. And she's saying to me that she's still in pain because she just buried her dad. She's mourning. But you will not believe what is happening. The dad did not have a will, even though he's quite a learned man who was even a lawyer. I mean, a lawyer, you would think somebody so educated would, think about putting, their affairs in place. But because of this cultural thing that will always think, oh, I'm not going to die now, there's no need, I'll do it later. So he didn't have a will. And while she's gone to bury her dad, she's back and she's mourning. And you see uncles calling her and say, oh, what's going to happen to your father's house? What's happening to your land? Who is his lawyer? What does he have? We want to know. This poor guy is still mourning. She's lost her dad. And she's still in tears. She's still crying that she just buried the man that she loves so much. And uncles are already asking, So you don't want to give people that opportunity to come and reap where they didn't sow. We all know that people can be very greedy, So that's why you need to, actually think about it very, very seriously. This issue of will. We see a lot of, well-to-do men in Nigeria or in Africa who have worked really hard. They've acquired so many assets, land, houses, all kinds of things, money in the bank. And, they just die without having anything in place. And then the wives don't know, what's happening. The children don't know. And the children begin to suffer because, even the banks sometimes can be very fraudulent. They might not reveal anything. They might not contact anybody if there's nothing in place. So that's why it is really, really important that if you are making money or you having assets, you're acquiring all these assets, you must put something in place. There's a brother of mine who shared something with me, which I find that is quite, it makes a lot of sense about talking about this issue of will. He's a young man. He's not old or anything, but he said to me when he saw that video that, what I do? Any asset I acquire, I will it. That's what I do. I don't wait for anything. If it's a house I'm buying, as I'm buying it, I'm willing it. This is, who I want to have this house if I'm gone. If it's money in the bank, I'm willing it. If it's a land I'm buying, I'm willing it. And another thing is that when you're doing something like that, you're writing a will, you need to let people know. Not everyone, obviously, but somebody that you trust. If it's not your wife or your partner, at least a friend that you trust, let them know. Because we see these stories all the time in Nigeria of people who've willed, their assets, and the lawyers will not come forward, or they'll try even, to convert those things to become theirs. So that's why you must tell someone. I know a lot of people, one of the issues is that people in Nigeria are scared that, oh, if I do a will and I put my wife's name, she's going to kill me. Or if I put my child's name, they're going to kill me. But I don't believe in that, because most women who work with their husband suffer with them to acquire these assets that they have. Even though in Africa there's nothing like joint assets. Everything the man has automatically is for the man alone. Even though the woman has contributed, sometimes even more largely than even the man himself. But over here, overseas, it's different. People can have joint assets with their partners or with their husbands, and then they can decide what's going to happen. If they don't have a will, what's going to happen? If it's the man that dies first, obviously everything he has is going to go to the wife. But what happens when there's no will and the woman dies? What's going to happen to everything that they have? For instance, if you're a couple here and you have a house in Nigeria, the children overseas don't really care about property in Africa. That's the thing that you need to know. If you're living abroad and you have children here, they don't really care about property in Africa because they do visit sometimes, but their life is here. They don't know anybody there, even though they know people. They're not going to go down there to settle, especially when their parents are no more. That's why you need to have something in place. And another reason is some people who've got assets want to set up their children while they are alive. So they say, oh, there's no point writing a will because I'm going to give this house to my child. I'm going to, make sure I pay for this for my child. I'm going to buy them a house. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. So they see no reason in writing a will because they feel if I set up my child, I've already willed everything I have out while I'm alive. So there's no need. But sometimes you might not have that choice. That's what I'm saying about death. It comes when no one expects. So that's why don't wait till your children are adults or until they are ready to be settled before you say, okay, take this house on your wedding day, or take this, car, or this money in the bank, or this business. You need, as you are making the money, please make sure that you are writing it down. This is what I want to happen. Because I think the saddest thing for me personally is somebody who has worked out. You worked out for this money, so you should have a say as to what happens to your money. Definitely you should have a say. This is your money. You've worked hard for it. So nobody should come and say this is how you should, will your money, or who should have your money or inherit your money. You are the one that worked hard for it. So you should have that option of saying, I want this to go to this person. I want this to go to this person. Even if you have one wife, let's, forget about polygamy, because in polygamous situation, then it becomes even more terrible. If a man has children from multiple women, or they've got multiple wives and they have, baby mamas in every corners, and you don't have a will and you've got assets, just know that when you die, it's a lot of wahala that you are causing. Because who is who? Nobody's, then the fight will start. They will start fighting each other. They will start, it can tear a family apart. There are so many families that have been torn apart because of the issue of property, how to share property when somebody dies. The person that has worked for the property is gone, but the people that are left behind will be fighting each other. So in a polygamous situation, for instance, or if you're a man, you've got a child out there, maybe your wife does not know, it might be wise for you to include, if you want to put that in your will, so that at least when you die, they will know. It's not when you die and the woman will now come forward and say, I'm his wife. These are his children. And everybody's like, but we didn't know you. Nobody introduced you to the family. So where are you coming from? So it becomes an issue. That's why I'm saying that, having things in place is really, really, really very important. It's not just, polygamous families. Even people with, only one wife, or women with only one husband, who's not had children for other people. Because even with a man with one wife and, children from the same woman, it becomes a problem. Who is going to inherit what? In traditionally African society will say is the first son, but sometimes it might not follow. It might be, it's not. I think that's something that I don't agree with, because it's actually very, it should be outdated by now. What if the man does not have a son? What happens to a daughter's inheritance? What happens to, so shouldn't you inherit something from your dad just because you are a woman? Because God has created you as a woman, does that disqualify you from inheriting from your dad when they pass? No, I don't think so. So that's why even if you have just one wife, you need to have things in place for how you want your inheritance to go. Who should have this? And another friend of mine recently lost her dad, and she was telling me how her dad, willed the house to her. The dad had only one wife, and the children were not many, but the man had already said, when I go, this is what I want you to have, this is what I want your brother to have, this is what I want your sister. So he's made everything easier, so there's no fights. So now that he's dead, they just came and say, okay, take your house, this is what your dad wants you to have. It makes life so much easier. There's not going to be any acrimony in the family. There's not going to be any fighting, or anybody chasing anybody with juju, or going to one prophet to say, come and pray for me, and they want to take my inheritance. It solves a lot of problem. That's all I'm saying. So please consider it. I don't think it costs very much. A friend of mine in Nigeria who is a lawyer said to me that you know, 90% of his clients do not have will, and these are people who are well to do. They don't have will. So I said to him, well, you should be advising them. That's your role as a legal advisor as well as a lawyer. He said, well, I try, but it's not something you want to hammer too much. If you speak too much about it, they will run. They will come back again. They'll say, what is it? Why are you telling me? You want to kill me? Why are you telling me about will? You know? So it's a problem. It's a very big problem that we need to be, educating ourselves on, to create that, awareness about why it is very important for people to have things in place. So my final point on this issue of will is that if you are a man, for instance, and you've got assets and you're worried about, if something bad will happen to you if you tell someone about your will, then please have your will. Don't say because of that you're not going to have your will. Write it. Tell someone, at least one person who you trust, maybe a friend. If you cannot tell your wife or your brother, tell a friend. Or if your children are old enough and you see that is a responsible child who is hardworking that you can trust, you can tell your child, this is what I have, this is what I have, this is the person, my will is with so lawyer, and this is what, you might not tell them the details, just let them know that, you've got this and that, and, you've got something with this lawyer in case anything happens to you, so that they will know. Don't hide it. Some African men are too secretive. It's everything that you hide. You hide and hide and hide and hide. Then when you die, it becomes a problem. Your wife will be suffering. Your children will be suffering. Don't hide things. Those days are gone when you say woman want to kill you or this want to kill you. I don't think it's happening, especially for those who live abroad. I don't think anybody is going to kill anybody because of any property. You need to put your house in order. Don't wait till you are old. Death does not know age. We're all going to live long by the grace of God. But what I'm saying is that as long as you have assets, be it land, be it houses, land, it's an asset. Say, this is what I want to happen to it, because at the end of the day, you have worked hard for this money. So you should have control as to who this is going to go for. Africans generally will work for our children. That's our culture. Everything we own, we'll say, oh, we're doing it for our children. But it would be the saddest thing if you work so hard, especially in this our obodo Igbo, where it's so difficult to get money. You've done all this hard job and you've worked so hard and you've made money, only for one miserable person to come and say, it's my brother, it's my sister, this is we have. Give to them only what you want to give to them. Don't allow them, don't give people the opportunity to deprive your children of what you have labored and suffered for. That's all I'm saying. It's been your girl Bridget Ekpo. Thank you for watching this edition of Obodo Igbo TV. Please subscribe to my channel. It's free of charge, and it's the red button down here. If you just click on it, that's the subscription button. It's free of charge. So please like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter as well for my weekly updates on different issues on Obodo Igbo TV. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.